I'm author-blogger Caroline Critchfield of SoCanShe.com. I'm here to share with you a really fun project that I designed. I started with a fish laundry bag, and then I added mesh to the body of the fish to turn it into a beach bag. It's really great for taking to the beach because when we're done, we pack up all the toys and the sunscreen, all the sand falls right out of the bag, and we don't take any into the car. So let's get started. There are 2 pattern pieces and the instructions, they're all downloadable from the website. So make sure you visit the website before you get started. We've got the head piece and the body piece, and this is what they look like when you tape them together. You'll need to cut 2 of each on the fold. So here you see I've got a piece of mesh that I've cut out on the fold. You'll need 2 of these. And I've got the head piece that I've also cut out on the fold, and you'll need 2 of these. To get started, you'll need to sew together the head and the body. And here you see I've seamed the head and the body together like that. And the next step is to top stitch along this seam. I pressed the seam toward the head part, and now I'm going to top stitch. So I'll do that. When I'm top stitching, I usually use a slightly longer stitch length, such as a 3 or a 3.5. And I'm top stitching about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam here. You can do more or less depending on your preference. Just top stitch right down here. This will keep this mesh seam toward the fish head so that you don't see the mesh from the outside of the bag. You won't see the mesh seam allowance. Okay. So now that my top stitching is done, I'm ready to sew on the fish lips or the casing. So here's my drawstring casing right here. This piece is a 17 by 2 inch strip of fabric, and I pressed a 1/4 inch hem and I stitched a 1/4 inch hem on both short ends. And the next step, I'm going to fold it wrong sides together to make a nice long strip like this and just press it. So once this is pressed, next I'm going to center this on, move that out of the way. So I'm going to center my drawstring casing on the head of the fish right here. There's going to be a little bit left over right here and a little bit right here that will go into your seam allowance. So for right now, just center the casing on and pin it in a few places, as many pins as you need. I'm just going to use 3 here. And then I will sew the casing in place with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now back here, for this part, I'm using white thread, you may have noticed. Of course, you'll want to use a color of thread that matches your project, but so that you can see it here, I'm using white. And if you want to, you can also finish this seam, such as by using a zigzag stitch, or using your serger, or even just trimming it with pinking shears. But for now, I'm not going to finish this seam here. Just keep in mind, if you like finished seams, you can do that. The next step is to open this out and press it. I will take care so that I press the ends to the inside also. These little ends that we left at the sides, we're just going to press those to the inside also. Now remember, you'll probably finish this seam, but even if you don't, that's okay. Press my little casing to the outside. All right, that looks great. Almost done. Next, I'm just going to top stitch that seam too. I like it when we have top stitching on both sides. So we have top stitching over here and top stitching right here. It really gives it a unified look. Okay, almost done. This really is a fast and easy project. This would also be a great teaching project if you've got a daughter or a granddaughter that you want to teach to sew a drawstring bag. So here's our casing sewn in place, and to make this a really cute fish, let's put the eye on. So here's the fish head, and I've cut out some pieces of felt with a fusible web, iron-on fusible web on the back. The pattern piece, it's really easy. You just trace the circle on the pattern piece on the back of your fusible web and then fuse it to your felt and cut it out. So I've got a white one and a pink one. And the placement on here is pretty much correct, depending on where you want to put it. But I like to put it about right here. So I will iron this on one at a time. I'm using wool felt here so it can take a hot iron. You'll want to check if you're using acrylic felt and make sure that it can take the heat from a hot iron. And just press it from both sides. This is a permanent fusible, so if you want to, if I wanted to, I could stitch around the eye to add more detail, but I don't have to because this is a permanent fusible. And I'll do the same thing with the little pink part of the eye. I like to press it from both sides. So if you're going to wash the bag, then you'd probably want to sew it on. But that's good for now. Okay, so I've got one side of the fish all done, and the other side of the fish is right here. If you want to put an eye on both sides, that's fine too. But just to save time, I'm going to leave that eye off. Personally, I don't add the other eye. Who looks at both sides of a bag at once? So we're just going to match this up. You see how easy it is to sew on this mesh. Now you can use as many pins as you want. I'm just going to be quick here. The seam allowance, again, is 1/2 inch. So it's a nice, generous seam allowance. And now I'll take it over to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew all the way around except for the casing at the opening. So let's go. Again, with your 1/2 inch seam allowance, this part, that's why our casing doesn't stretch all the way to the edge. You've got that part right there. And I'm going to make sure to backstitch right here. This is a place that you don't want coming out. And then we'll just sew around the body of the fish. And back here at the bottom, make sure that your little seam allowance is folded back right there. And you'll want to backstitch right here. Okay. All right, now I'll just trim a few threads. Now before I turn this right side out, I'll want to clip in just a few places. I'll want to clip right here. My thread is the same color, so I'll be careful not to clip it. But I want to clip right there, and clip here, and clip the corners off just to make that easy, make turning that easy. Now I'll turn the fish bag right side out and watch it come alive. This mesh is kind of stiff, but I actually don't mind that it's stiff because I feel like then you can see the body of the fish better. So once you've got it turned right side out all the way, The last step is to add your drawstring. For this bag, I'm using twill tape, 1/2-inch twill tape for my drawstring, but you could also use cording or ribbon, or you could make your own drawstrings. And what you do is you hook one end of the drawstring to a bodkin, and you'll want to run it up or down one side, however you think of it, down one side, out, and then back in the other drawstring and back here, and then tie a knot. And then you'll take your other drawstring, they're both 1 yard long, and you'll start here, and you'll go down through the same drawstring, out, through the one on the back and back here, and then grab that and tie a knot right here, so that when you're done, it looks like this, and you've got knots. So there are actually 2 drawstrings in here, and they're tied on the ends, and you can open and close it like that. So it's ready for the beach or for laundry or whatever you want.